I plan to retire before I'm 50 years old. How am I going to do that? Well, in the last video, we went over my current net worth based on all my investment accounts, all my savings, cash, all that kind of stuff. And occasionally, I like to play with some investment calculators just to kind of give myself a little bit of a ballpark as to what to aim for in order to hit my specific goals. So, cash and savings aren't really a humongous priority. We're going to be looking at brokerage accounts, Roth IRAs, and a 401k for my particular plan. I don't have a financial advisor. I did use one for a little while, but I have since just gone on my own. That was a few years ago. I understand how financial advisors want you to make money because in turn that makes them money. But this guy, I don't know. I kind of felt like he was holding me back a little bit. Plus, the conversations we had were just a little uncomfortable at times. But anyway, let's look at a couple of things because we have to go over some specifics aside from just how much am I going to invest and for how long, because we need to talk about housing as well. I don't plan to be a renter for my entire life because I like the idea of owning a property outright and not having any sort of housing payment. That is really, really attractive. Now, it's becoming increasingly more difficult with how expensive homes are getting. And in the current area that I'm in, I'd be hard-pressed to find a reasonable home for a price that is attractive to me, that I would be comfortable affording. And one major thing that I want to accomplish at some point with my home purchase, whenever that may be, is I want a 3-digit mortgage payment. Some way, somehow, I'm going to accomplish that. Whether it's having a monster down payment on a property or just waiting for interest rates to come crashing way down. Ideally, it's going to be a combination of the two. So I'm hoping that in the next few years or so, interest rates are really going to come down significantly because I'm going to have more money built up to have a crazy down payment. I don't know what kind of priced home I'm looking at. It all just depends on interest rates more or less. But let's just use age 30 as a benchmark point. So you all know right now I'm 24. I'll be turning 25 in just a few weeks here, about a month and a half. And so I'm going to base this first calculation off of 5 years. So let's take my brokerage account for an example. I have about $40,000 saved in that account currently. And it's nothing fancy. It's no crypto. It's S&P 500, okay? And the average rate of return for that over the last 30 years has been about apparently 9.6, 9.9%, just shy of 10. I'm going to call it 9.5 for this first calculation. And this is also assuming that I'm never getting a raise during those 5 years. Like I'm never going to make any more money than I am currently. On average, I'm pretty comfortable with contributing about $1,400 to $1,500 a month into this account without really stretching myself thin. So for $40,000, I'm calling it $1,450 a month on average for the next 5 years would land me with about $180,000. By this point, I like to think that I'd be in the market for purchasing a home. Now, I would not drain that account down to zero. That is really, really scary to me because I don't want to lose out on all the potential compound interest that I'm able to gain from that. Yes, I do plan to use a decent chunk of that for a down payment. Let's even say I use $120,000 of that $180,000 for a down payment on a home, on whatever, okay? Somehow I would accomplish my 3-digit mortgage payment so that no matter what, even if I get laid off or I'm really down on my luck, it would be pretty easy to come across $800 or $900 every single month in order to take care of my housing, okay? And that's a fixed rate. That's not going to increase year over year like rent. So that's a goal. It's kind of a lofty goal, but it's absolutely attainable. So then at 30 years old, that would leave me with about $60,000 left in that brokerage account. Okay? What do we do from there? Well, let's take the same 9.5% and do that for another 18 years. Okay? So I would be 48 years old. And then let's assume I'm contributing a little bit extra every single month. Again, I'm kind of basing this off of the idea of me never getting a raise. So my housing payment would be a little bit lower, let's say $800 to $900, which is a few $100s less than I'm paying now for my rent. So let's say now I can contribute $1,600 every single month to my brokerage account. Where would that land me in 18 years from age 30? Okay, so I'm 48 years old. This is 2048. I would have just over $1.4 million in my brokerage account. And now if we use the classic withdrawal method of about 4%, which most people gauge that as relatively safe so that you're not touching the principal at all, that would give me just over $56,000 a year to spend to live my lifestyle, or about $4,700 every single month. Look, I understand inflation constantly jacking things up year over year, but I like to think that that will be plenty of money to live a very comfortable lifestyle down the road. And I'm assuming 48 would be the year that I bail out, which means I'd be living off of cash and my brokerage account money, because I'm never going to withdraw from retirement unless it is a literal do or die situation. So let's talk about that now. So I'm taking these numbers based off of what I estimate to have by the time I hit my 25th birthday, and then for now we're going to calculate it to what I would have at 48 years old, because I'd be working that entire time, so I'd have money to contribute to these accounts. Let's start with my Roth IRA. By the time I turn 25, I'll have, I'm assuming, about $19,500, okay? And I plan to max it out every single year for the foreseeable future, hopefully forever, which is currently sitting at $7,000 per year. I wouldn't be surprised if that trends upward in the coming years, especially by the time I'm 48 years old, but let's just assume it's $7,000 a year. When you take 7,000 divided by 12, that's an average of $583 every single month that I would contribute. And let's take the same 9.5%. That would land me just shy of $750,000 in that account. Similarly for my 401k, again, I'm really reaching with this one. This is just assuming I have a roughly the same contribution rate as I currently do. I would land at about $250,000 in that account. Roughly. That is the biggest ballpark number that I can come up with my 401k, because every company is going to be different. Some will have a match, some won't have a match. Depending on how much I'm making at the time and what percentage I put towards it, my contribution will also change. And I also drag down the rate of return to 9%, just to really kind of play it safe and have not a worst case scenario, but I'm taking into account a lot of different changes. So maybe about $250,000 by the time I'm 48. Now here comes the magical part. At this point, I'm 48 years old. I would feel comfortable, if these were my numbers, I would feel comfortable walking away from work. Certainly full-time work, okay? I don't necessarily think that I will go my entire life at this point without doing some kind of job or work, okay? This is just the point that I would consider myself to be financially free. And for me, that is not going out on yachts and taking first-class plane trips to different exotic countries. This is me living a modest lifestyle with some occasional travel and doing some pretty inexpensive hobbies, okay? I'd mess with music. I would do some kind of podcast type thing, kind of like what I'm doing right now with this YouTube channel. And go on hikes. I would take bike riding really seriously. Just all kinds of pretty inexpensive activities. Like I said, I don't have a ton of expensive tastes, not even in cars. I wouldn't go blow all my money on some kind of fancy pants car. That's not happening. I buy cars in cash. Cars are a tool. I use them to get to where I need to go. The one with the best gas mileage and the lowest amount of miles for the best price, that is the one that I'm going to eye up. I don't care what it looks like. So now at this point at 48 years old, I'm living off of the interest of my brokerage account, okay? About $1.5 million to $2 million is about what I consider to be the really good, sweet, safe spot. But hey, in this scenario, 1.4 also, I'm willing to bet that in certain years, I'm going to be able to contribute a significantly higher amount of money to this account. So it's probably going to be closer to 1.5, 1.6 million realistically, if markets stay the same. And then we'd be living off of that interest up until about 60 years old. So let's take the 401k now, because that is the one that I'd be withdrawing from first. So we'll take the $250,000. And in fact, I'm even going to take down the percentage a little bit more, okay? I'm going to go down to 8.5%. So we're talking from 48 years old to 60 years old, $250,000, contributing nothing extra. We're just going to let it sit and compound. 8.5%, I would land with $700,000. That's not where the magic happens, okay? I'd start withdrawing from this account first as opposed to my Roth IRA for two reasons. Number one, I want to eat the taxes on this account up front. And also, it's a lower amount of money, which means year over year, it's going to gain less in interest. I'm going to let my Roth IRA sit for even longer. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to pretend it's not even there and live as if my 401k is all I have. Now, I wouldn't be afraid to drain my 401k down to zero. I wouldn't plan to do that, of course, but hey, if it happens, it happens, because I should still have a significant amount of money in my brokerage account anyway. So it'd be kind of like an even split, so to speak. I'd be drawing a little bit from each of them, just so as to not totally suck out the principal long term. But let's assume that I withdraw from my 401k for about 5 years. Okay, so that'd make me 65 years old. So when we move to my Roth IRA now, we take the original $750,000 that I would have at age 48, contributing nothing. I'm going to put the rate of return at 9% this time, and we'll plan to withdraw at about 65 years old. That puts me at just over $3.4 million in my Roth IRA. That is plenty for me to retire very comfortably and continue to have a very, very nice latter half of my life. Because just for fun, if we take the 4% rule for that $3.4 million, that gives me a spending potential of up to $137,000 every single year in 2065, where at that point, my house would most likely be paid for. I'd have likely no debt to speak of. I would still have a good nest egg in my brokerage account, probably some money left in my 401k as well. $137,000 or $11,400 every single month that I would have to live and do whatever I want. Unless we're experiencing some absolutely out of this world inflation for the next several decades and nothing is ever done to fight against that or bring things back down to normal, I don't know who would ever object to having over $11,000 every single month of just literal interest that's not even touching the principal. That is how I plan to retire, and anytime I'm feeling like I'm behind or I need to kick myself into gear even more, I load up some of these calculators and I play with some numbers just to kind of reassure myself that statistically speaking, I am going to be more than fine in retirement. And this doesn't mean I'm living scorched earth right now in order to make these initial contributions to my accounts. I live a fairly enjoyable life. I have some hobbies that I enjoy very, very much. They just don't cost very much. And I take the occasional trip here and there, of course, too. I mean, you have to sprinkle some of that stuff in here and there, okay? But given my current life expectancy, I mean, my goodness, my one grandfather was 94 years old. My other grandfather was 82 years old. If I retire at 48, I'm expecting to have at least another 40 years of life left. That's a long time to really just go and enjoy myself. And I'd be financially free. I would never, ever have to work again if I didn't want to. So that's my plan. Is it bulletproof? No way. I'm relying on the market, literally. But that's the majority of people. I don't expect to be some kind of millionaire earner in my lifetime. I don't think I'm an idiot, but I don't think I'm the next Albert Einstein, Elon Musk kind of guy, where I'm going to be raking in billions of dollars. Plus, that is a lot of work that I'm just not interested in. So, what do you think? Do you guys have long-term plans for retirement? Have you thought about this stuff? Load up some of these calculators at some point and just kind of play around with some numbers a little bit. Even if they might be completely unrealistic in the moment, it gives you something to work towards and it can show you the potential gains that you can witness over your lifetime. I don't expect to see any benefits of compound interest anywhere in my 20s. Probably not until I hit at least my mid-30s will I start to notice some real traction with compound interest. But the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be in the long run. It's a lot of work up front, but it doesn't have to completely consume your entire life. You can still have fun and not feel obligated to shove every single penny that you have into your piggy bank. That's not what this is supposed to be. Do what is most comfortable for you, but understand that the future will eventually come and you want to be prepared for it. So, I hope you enjoyed this little sneak peek. We'll see how it goes over the next, 23 years? And appreciate you tuning in, and we'll continue this another time.